right, good evening and welcome to the third trend tour of the year on fashion and textiles. Most of us here tonight, I'm sure, are aware that the fashion industry plays a large part in the waste that's being created right now. But with our trend tour tonight, we're hoping to change that. And we'll see some innovative alternatives to move towards a more circular economy. My name is Rachel Johnson. I'm a program manager here at Circulars, and I have the pleasure of guiding you through the trend tour tonight. Before we jump into the topic, I want to give you a little bit of background on Circulars, as we have some big news to share. Just last month, we started a new sustainability network together with the Messe Munich called Be Green Leaders. So with Be Green Leaders, it's a cross-industry sustainability network for the circular economy, and it's for everyone: startups, corporates, investors, experts in academia, even politicians. So the goal of Be Green Leaders is to connect all the players of the circular economy and to bring more visibility and impact to the topic through knowledge transfer, exchange, and collaboration. We have a new website that we're very excited to share. We invite you to check it out in the comments section. And yeah, if you're interested in becoming a Be Green Leader, at the moment, our events are open to the general audience. But if you want to continue to have unlimited access to events like the Trend Tours, please join Be Green Leaders. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Yeah, lots of hard work went into it, so check it out. And now back to the main event of the night. Over the course of the evening, you'll hear from 3 different startups on their solutions in fashion and textiles. We have invited Everdye from France, Reverse Fashion from Berlin, and Refresh Global from Tel Aviv. And yeah, they're pretty global. They're also located in Berlin and across the globe. And we also have a special presenter tonight to lead our startup introductions and the Q&A sessions. More on that later. But if you have a question at any time, feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll be sure to get them answered. And as always, to start, we have invited an expert keynote speaker. Tonight, we have with us Juliane Kahl, founder and CEO of Responsive Fashion Institute. She'll give a little overview of the key trends, facts, and figures before we hand the stage to the startups. Juliane and her team are developing solutions to change the way we think, talk, and produce fashion through digital applications, and they're helping to transform companies into digital sustainable brands through innovation. I'm very excited to hear more about what the Responsive Fashion Institute is doing. And yeah, I would like to welcome Juliane to the stage.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Circulars and Rachel and Natasha and the team for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here and give my take on the future of fashion and new ways of fashion. And it's impossible to do that within 10 minutes. Okay, yes. Thank you very much for inviting me to this virtual trend tour. My name is Juliane, and a quick introduction what we do with the Responsive Fashion Institute. We are creating cutting-edge digital fashion experience with spatial environments. Spatial is this new topic right now since recently, where Apple introduced this new hardware, and it's really groundbreaking and really fantastic which opportunities are happening there. So we are developing applications for that, and we try to unlock the market potential across diverse segments for sustainable fashion applications. Just what we've done in that space since the pandemic, we entered the digital format. We did innovation challenge in Bavaria in 2020, where we looked at digitalizing the data from each participant's closet. We created several virtual environments where we brought in workshops and research about sustainable fashion. This is a screenshot from one of the workshops about AI and fashion that we hosted in 2021. We did in the same space some closing events of Digital Fashion Week from Brazil and Latin America, and we had over 200 participants in there to close the event and displayed also some digital fashion as well. We tried in experimenting with new formats of presenting fashion. So we integrated 3D assets of digital fashion and also experiments with some formats of fashion shows to really push the boundaries of what fashion show could be like, and really pushing the boundaries on formats and displays. We also did different other events there, like hosted different conferences. This is from the IIM in 2021. It's an conference about healthy internet and data literacy. And I also am an educator, and I hosted a master course for fashion management. We did a digital transformation module in there, and it was, as far as we're concerned, the first teaching of a master's program that was done in virtual reality. We also created some other spaces in VR, again, hosted workshops, did evaluations, and we tried to integrate further fashion in those spaces. And just want to show you some examples of those fashion. That was just before the digital fashion applications were possible in Midjourney. And this is all still done by hand. So you really see the detail, and we can really talk about a digital craftsmanship in that context. So it's not possible yet to wear these outfits on your avatars, but we're working on that. And currently we're doing a project with the support from the state of Bavaria to bring in digital dirndl and lederhosen into virtual spaces. So more on that later. And this is a project we did where we introduced some indigenous knowledge systems from Ethiopia into virtual spaces. So we did some research about architecture, about where certain materials being developed and how they're being treated, how they're being manufactured. And we created a virtual map in a virtual environment and integrated our research on that. And we also did a hands-on research project about a material development. This is called the material harvesting hack. We won a prize by the German Bundestag for sustainable developments. And this is a lake in Lake Tana that you see here, and it's completely infested by the water hyacinth. It's a very invasive plant, and we tested how we can use the plant as a fiber for fashion, but to also integrate the communities with it. So that's the Responsive Fashion Institute. We also delved out into the research about AI in fashion, and we tested the notion about accessorize, automation, design processes. Here's an example we did for accessorized designs. I also pushed the boundaries about craft and digital identity. So I try to prompt images with fashion designs that are physically not possible to be made, and really creating a notion about craft and what digital craft means, like in combination with digital identity. If you ask me about my point, what's really coming next in fashion and what's really going to play a big role in fashion, it's about fashion and data. This is not new, but you probably remember this gentleman from the Cambridge Analytica film about the scandal with the election in 2016. He was a whistleblower. And what most people don't know, he did a PhD about data and shopping behaviors. So he said that you can, and that's a quote by him, that through music data and fashion data, it's the most formative tool to predict someone's personality. And after he was a whistleblower at Cambridge Analytica, he joined H&M. And since then, he's been developing different formats and applications for H&M. And he's also someone that is really strong about usage of data and the right usage of data, but it's also a question of what can be done with fashion data. What's the potential of fashion data? And we know that from fast fashion companies and super fast fashion companies like Shein, that they really use very successfully this data system in order to produce their collections and to sell clothes. But it's also, I think, worth considering what potential we have with using data and AI in fashion beyond just selling things physically. And there's some really interesting approaches there. One of which is from the company from London called Volition. This is a screen grab from their website they did in 2016, which is like 100 years ago in fashion. A software visualization or a visualization of data about the shopping habits of certain time frames between men and women, and it showed the amount of products from different brands that were put in certain baskets, and it showed during the time, during the day, and it was a really amazing visualization, and really showed the potential of the creativity of showcasing data of fashion, but also showing the potential for revenues and for generating value, so to say. Then, of course, we will hear a lot from the startups in a short time, so I'm not going to bore you with the data. Fashion waste is a massive issue. It's a massive topic about overproduction. It's a big problem that the fashion industry still needs to solve, and I'm sure the three startups will give an amazing ideas about that. This is the usual image that you're going to see in the other presentations as well, but it's a massive, massive problem. And just to give you some data on that, which I'm sure you will hear in the pictures as well, it's just a crazy amount that has a really heavy burden on the planet, on people, and on resources. And as we're all aware, I think things can't go on like that. But what can you do with waste? And my belief is that we really need collaboration. We need cross-cultural collaborations. We need a combination of different skill sets. And it also evolves into material science. And this is an example of Bean London. It's a company which founder did a sustainable sourcing course at Cambridge, and she came up with a brand which is producing accessories which are mainly made out of waste materials. So this is an example from a compostable accessorize. So this is a compostable material which is completely, it would be a waste material otherwise. She works with different leather types as well, pineapple skin, apple skin, but this is one of the first one where it's really truly compostable. And here's another example of a recent conference that happened from the UNECE, and it was about the future of fashion and cities embracing innovation and circular economy. And it was a beautiful get-together of different decision makers, change makers, but also startups and also experts. And it really tackled the missing link of what is happening. Amsterdam and Cape Town, the two cities, doing amazing initiatives about circular fashion, circularity. And it's a really, I find, interesting approach to look what cities and decision makers in cities can really to accelerate those circular economy and circular fashion initiatives. This is a recent example from MIT, again talking about collaboration. This was some scientists from MIT that teamed up, and they came with Self-Assembly Lab, which is a very innovative fashion startup, and they come up with a 4D knit dress. So we're not just talking 3D, we're talking 4D, because they can, by the way this dress is being manufactured, they can say what certain shape the person wears, what certain knit is necessary to create certain shapes, and it's really a fantastic solution. And if we talk about waste, if we talk about composting, maybe there's a way to manufacture these products on demand. There's some amazing scanning technology out there to scan your own body, to individualize products, and really create compostable or regenerative fashion on demand, which is personalized. And this, everyone in fashion knows that example. I just thought I shared because it's a big, big thing. It's the airbag by Coperni. It's made from an aerogel, which is a silicon-based solid with a sponge-like structure. It's very innovative, and it's made out of air. And again, a beautiful example of collaboration of NASA scientists, of fashion designers, of product designers, and really to push the envelope of what is possible with innovation. Traceability, trust, transparency, it's all about the data. It's about what data it is, what the source of the data is, if it's trustworthy, is it traceable? And I'm sure we're going to hear more about those from the beautiful startups. Here's an example from Open Mode, and we all know about the digital product passport that are coming up. We all about the new legislation coming up, but it's really about trust. And I think trust is very important because we all know that the consumers really want to have consume sustainable products and to really transfer and deliver trustworthy information that are traceable and that are not greenwashed. I think it's really the way forward. And then we talk about the mindset. This is an example from Corrales, which I think it's very charming, but also very true, because we always think, if we talk about the future now, what will happen, and what do we think will be the next big thing? And this example on luxurious planes in 50 years, it's not linear and it won't go the way it is. And I think just to keep that in mind, that really there are always some surprises, and we can shape the future in a way we want. And this is a very useful tool for that. It's speculative prototyping by Dunn and Raby. These are two researchers that invented this methodology at the Royal College of Fashion. And it's about conceptualizing, creating prototypes of alternative futures or speculative designs that challenge existing assumptions and norms. So it's really the preferable future that we want, that we can all create. And good old Slow Factory Foundation, they're really at the forefront of certain initiatives which are a bit out of the box. And I think it's a very nice quote that we can all share if we're shaping the future of fashion. Is all systems crumble, we must harvest magic out of chaos. Also a very useful tool, the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations. It's just a very good toolbox in order to stay focused on certain values and credibilities. The current fashion as it is right now, it's very outdated and is not sustainable, and it's very unequal. And it's a very important image, I think, that we can always bring back into our minds. And then also, just to finish my little keynote, what is the role of creative technologies in designing human first or nature first experiences? And my take is that so many new forms and formats and products are being developed. Let's bring in the human-centered approach to it, or the nature-centered approach to it. And how can we explore the intersection of human psychology and emerging technologies? How can we create meaningful connections between virtual and real worlds? And how can we cooperate with fashion, technology, and consumer behavior? And stay tuned for updates. And I give over to the host again. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much, Juliane. That's a great overview and a perfect stage for the startups to join in now. And all the possibilities with digitalization and AI that are out there, I think that's going to play a big factor, and we're going to see some examples from some of our startups here. Yeah, maybe one question to ask you before we hand over the stage. What do you see the biggest challenge in this shift of fashion towards a more circular economy? Or what's the biggest hurdle?
I think it's the biggest thing is to sort out the recycling of the materials, and to get the fiber back into the system. And I think it's really complex. It starts with the sorting, and it ends up with CO2 consumption of doing these recycling processes. But I think it's ultimately it's a material issue.
Much.
And education, because if we don't educate the next generation of designers and the current designers as well, in how to start from scratch with the designing for circularity, I think that's going to be a really big game changer as well.
The education's important in changing the mindset too, right? If we just continue on the path.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much for all the insights, and looking forward to staying in touch. And yeah, now I'd like to hand over the stage to our special moderator, who will be presenting the startups and leading the Q&A. So it's a first tonight. We have us from 4P Capital. We have joining us is Laurent-Frederic Lohmann. So 4P Capital is a great partner of Circulase, an impact asset manager run and supported by entrepreneurial families and family offices. They're investing into important topics like the climate and partnering with companies that make the world more resilient. So joining us is Laurent. He's been with 4P since the start, and he's also an amazing moderator. We had the pleasure of having him at the Circular Summit with us in November, and we're very thrilled that he could join us again tonight. So yeah, Laurent's the expert. I would like to hand over the stage to him, and yeah, enjoy.
Rachel, you're setting expectations incredibly high. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. It's always been an immense pleasure partnering up with you, first and foremost, and of course, Rachel, to you, and then to Klaus and Natasha, a huge thank you from our part as well. Great to be here, everyone. And what you said before, Juliane, actually really resonated with me, where you said that education is a really big part in getting this over the line. And the fact that all of you, the many of you who have joined today, are joining to learn means that we're moving the needle just a little bit in terms of educating ourselves and then others as well in that bracket. Now, what we're going to do in the next couple of minutes is we're going to present 3 startups to you, or let's say the founders and beautiful people behind the startups are going to present themselves. This is going to probably take about 10 minutes per startup. And then we have about 5 minutes where we can ask questions. Now, I'm running a 2-screen setup, and my second screen is just here for questions for the startups. But if you have a question and you'd like to overrule me, then please absolutely do so. And I think without further ado, I've sort of laid out the rules of the game. So I'm very happy to introduce the first ones. One of the biggest challenges, or let's say the fact that the fashion industry has one of the biggest impacts on the planet, I don't think we really need to pitch to anybody in this room. But one of the things that not many people know is for a fact that the dyeing process contributes a lot towards our industry, unfortunately, being unsustainable. And the brands on the other side, they're really under pressure because dyeing for them is sort of still a black box. And there is a couple of alternatives, but these alternatives in many cases don't really offer the right durability or don't really offer the right color per se. So here, Viktoria Durand from Everdye, they're here to absolutely change the name of the game. And I'm very excited to offer you the stage. Victor, welcome.
Thank you, Laurent. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Viktoria, Head of Operations at Everdye, and we are developing the technology to provide, as Laurent said, the hottest color without the burn. As Laurent perfectly explained, we all know here that textile is a highly pollutive industry. But what we often don't know is that dyeing treatments account for the largest impact in the manufacturing process of a garment. In fact, it accounts for more than half of the carbon emissions of the industry and for 20% of world water pollution. And this is all because dyeing processes as they exist now are highly inefficient. Today, to dye a fabric, you need to immerse it in a bath of petrochemical-based colorant for long hours, up to 10, at very high temperature, from 60 to 130 degrees. All of these require a lot of energy. And globally, this energy comes from fossil fuels, which are the main source of carbon emission of the textile industry. To put it in numbers, 75% of the emissions of a dyeing process come from the energy usage. So if we take a step back, we have 100% of the emission of the global textile industry. We have 52%, which are coming from textile dyeing treatment, and 75% of these related to energy usage. So almost 40% of the textile industry total carbon footprint comes from the dyeing processes. So if we tackle this issue, we'll bring the whole industry on the path of decarbonization. And also for dyeing mills, the energy is not only a sustainability issue, it's first and foremost a money issue, as energy represents the most important spending of a dyeing mill. And this is exactly the issue that we are tackling at Everdye, as our dyeing process takes place at room temperature. Everdye offers a textile dyeing process that is first ecological, less energy and water usage. 2, that has the same performances than existing processes in terms of quality and fastness. 3, which is price competitive to enter the supply chain of our clients. And 4, that's easy to scale, as it's working with existing machinery without the need of heavy investment by our clients. So to sum up, it's bringing a more sustainable process without compromising on quality. So how are we doing this? So we've developed 2 complementary chemical solutions that will allow dyeing mills to produce efficiently and with almost no energy for heating. First, we have a pretreatment that negatively charges the fabric, and then a positively charged pigment that attaches to it like a magnet. We'll deep dive just a bit into the pretreatment. So what you see here on the right side of the screen, it's a cellulose molecule. So basically, it's the cotton we will dye on. Our pretreatment is going to oxidize the OH groups that you can see and transform them into negatively charged molecules. Once we have this negative charge, we're creating the anchoring sites on the fiber for our pigment. Our pigment, it's made of biomass and mineral. So we're using nanocellulose that we are functionalizing to attach 2 positively charged molecules that will create the strong bonding with the fabric. And on the third attachment side, we are putting a mineral. Currently it's iron, and that will give the color. Below, you can see our first 3 colors, which are blue, orange, and yellow. This technology is the world's first low-heat, low-emission dyeing process. It requires 10 times less energy for production than conventional method. We've made a first LCA with Quantis, and it shows that we are already reducing the carbon emissions by a factor of 4. And with our latest development, we hope to very soon reach reduction by a factor 8. And all of these while fitting into current existing infrastructure, as we are not demanding any type of investment from dyeing mills. We are fully plug and play. Some important innovative companies are developing organic dyeing technologies, but they're often asking to invest in expensive machinery. That is not our case. Finally, our biosourced pigment and our low heat dyeing process are meeting industry's highest quality criteria. Because of this quality, we are already working with 6 of the biggest global textile brands in the world, from fashion to luxury, on projects that range from lab scale to industrial development. In terms of quality criteria, you can see here on the screen that we are achieving very high grades in light fastness, 8 out of 8. It's higher than any other dye. We are also achieving the best grade in perspiration fastness, and we're meeting high quality criteria in washing and rubbing fastness. In fine, we have a pigment that significantly reduces energy usage and therefore carbon footprint, while maintaining the highest quality requirements. And of course, Everdye is fully aligned with several United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as we are reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So let me introduce our team, starting with our 2 co-founders. So Ilan is an engineer by background and has worked as the CPO of an AI company. He's French and Turkish. His family has been working in the textile industry for the past 60 years, helping global brands produce in countries such as Turkey, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. As for Amira, she's a PhD in material chemistry, who developed antivirus and antibacterial textiles for military alliance NATO. And after this, she worked as the head of R&D in painting industry before she launched Everdye. We are now a team of 15 people coming from 8 different countries, but all working in France. As its core, we have the R&D team with researchers that have PhDs and postdocs in organic, inorganic, and material chemistry. They're working on many projects, including the development of additional colors, optimizing the formula for existing pigments, and expanding the type of fiber we can dye on. We also have a very highly experienced industrial team. We have textile engineers that have worked in mills for more than 10 years, and industrial engineers that are scaling our products to make them reach industrial scale. This is one of our biggest challenges for the year, being able to produce enough volumes to meet our client demand. Since the beginning of the company, we've been able to secure a total of 7 million euros of funding, 2 million coming from private investors, and 5 million of non-dilutive, thanks to subsidies, loans, and various awards. We are proud to have been laureate of the prestigious European Innovative Council Accelerator Program of the European Commission, which will fund our upcoming key project, expanding the color palette, upscaling our production, and validating our industrial dyeing process. These projects are instrumental in becoming market ready. Our next phase of development will be reached through the launch of a Series A in the coming 6 months, where we plan to raise 8 to 10 million euros, leaving the status of research startup to embrace the status of industrial scale-up, with the objective of becoming the global leader of sustainable dye stock. This team is Everdye, and we are empowering the fashion industry to become environmental friendly, free of carbon emissions, and energy efficient. We are targeting the 10 billion euro global textile dyeing market and addressing clients that are facing an important pressure from consumer, regulator, and investors. We believe in a more sustainable textile production and are dedicated to becoming a key player in that field. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Victor, thank you so much. I have so many burning questions. I'll just prioritize my own. I'm so sorry to everybody who does have questions. Two things. First and foremost, it almost seems to me like it's a little bit too perfect to be true, right? At the same cost, you're not requiring any more infrastructure investment from your customers. You're a lot more efficient in the energy that you use, and the color is as beautiful as can be. Sort of, if that is, or when that is all the case, what does your competitive landscape look like at the moment? Are you at the helm of it, or?
Well, the first thing is that we are still small, we are still young, and so everything that I presented is where we're gonna be when we will be at scale, which is not the case yet because we have very limited production capacity. This is why this is one of the biggest challenges for us. We are still only 15 people, so we have a lot of R&D to continue, and we still have limited resources. So all I've presented is the initial result we have had by conducting LCA, by conducting pilot scale tests with our clients, but we are not yet market ready. We know that we need to work on a lot of parameters, and scale is of the essence here. Being bigger for us will able to reach all of these. And to answer to your question also, we need to consider the dyeing process as a whole, which means that, for instance, our competition is petrochemical companies that are installed for more than 50 years. So they are much more advanced than us in a technological scale. So we will be more expensive. If we compare pigment to pigment, we will be more expensive. But if you compare the process of the dyeing that includes in it workforce and energy, the more expensive the energy is, the more affordable or the more competitive our process is also. So this is how we are reasoning. This is how we are thinking the process through. But there is still a lot of work on our side.
Understood. Maybe you said you're still pre-product or pre-market ready. Once you are, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge in scaling this as quickly as possible, Victor?
This is a good question. We have still many challenges. I think we need to do a lot of things in the same time. And we need to balance and to be able to conduct all of these projects in the same time, because they all intertwine with each other. To be more clear, to be interesting for our clients, we need to have a color palette. We need to offer a lot of different colors so they can choose from, and they can tell us, okay, I need these. Can you replicate it? For now on, we cannot do that yet. So we need to work on the colors. At the same level, we need those colors to be available at industrial scale. So we need to be able to take them from the development to large scale, to application on textile, and then to be able to produce them at large scale, which implies modification on the formulas, which implies finding partners to help us to adapt the formula from lab scale to industrial scale, and which also needs us to have partners which we can work with to produce for us before we have our own production capacity. So I think the biggest challenges will be to be able to conduct all these projects in the same time.
Totally understood, Victor. From my own time when I worked in the fashion industry, one big realization stuck with me where everybody's very happy to look into more sustainable practices, but nobody wants to pay the price for it. And sometimes the price is having less of a color palette or paying more upfront, but then realizing that you have less cost later on, right? It feels like either they wanted the case to be too good to be true, or they don't want it at all. So I understand that your scaling is going to be just as part of that. Amazing. Victor, thank you so much for being here with us today. And everybody who wants to reach out to Victor, please do, of course.
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer to any question or to start anything.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And before the others get mad at me, I'm just going to continue with the next startup. The next startup is Reverse Fashion by Mario Osterwalder. So Reverse Fashion helps you unlock the circular textile economy by offering advanced textile sorting technology. Because until now, it's been quite the tedious and actually in many cases manual process that was far from commercially viable for many brands. And this is also one of the things that we look at as investors, right? Sometimes it's not so much about understanding where's technology going to go, but then also what is taking the current market or what is taking current players within that market or preventing them from adapting new technology. And in that case, making sure that it becomes more technologically viable through the solution of reverse fashion is quite the exciting value proposition. So Mario, great to see you again from a couple of years back, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laurent. Yeah, my name is Mario. I'm co-founder of Reverse Fashion. You might know me as co-founder of Circular Fashion, which we founded 7 years ago. We now have a spin-off, which is Reverse Fashion, where we will focus on sorting technology. We have heard from Juliane before that sorting will be a key to enable a circular economy. And that's what we want to provide to the sorting industry. If we look at the textile industry, we have heard it a bit from Victor already. The impact of the textile industry is quite significant. Approximately 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions are coming from the textile industry. We have up to 150 billion garments which are produced per year, or if you look at one consumer in the EU, it's approximately 26 kilo of textiles which they consume every year. If we look what happens with this enormous amount of textiles which are produced, we see that a big share of it actually goes directly to municipal waste or landfill. Globally, approximately 20% is collected, and even in the EU, it's up to 30 to 35%. Looking at Germany, it looks a bit better, 64% is collected there, but Germany is basically the global leader in collection rates. If we look what happens with the garments which are collected, and we look into the sorting industry, we see they usually are collected through bins, for example, or in-store, but then they end up in a sorting facility. And the sorting facility is the place where they take decisions. What happens with the garment? Will it be reused? Does it go to recycling? Will it be exported? And today, approximately 10% of the garments which are collected go into local reuse. Usually they work with local secondhand stores or their own secondhand stores, which they have. Then a much bigger share, approximately 45%, is exported to usually continents with lower income rate, such as Africa. And then they have downcycling, where things go into things like filling material for car seats. And last but not least, there is incineration with approximately 10 to 15%. Coming back to the sorting industry how it is today. This is today, it's quite subjective because people are looking at it. They have like 2 to 7 seconds to take a decision what happens with it. We learned that this is often not so accurate, and it's also expensive as it's quite labor intense. On the other side, the mixes which they can make is also restricted because usually they look at the product type. So is it a garment, a jacket, or a t-shirt? And then they look at the quality, and then they say, okay, first quality going to reuse in local stores, second and third quality going in export, and the rest goes into recycling, downcycling, or incineration. And we see an option. We see a couple of things which happened in the market which can change this, or which brings pressure into the market. First of all, we see that the EU has new regulations. So from 2025 on, it will be mandatory that each member state has a separate collection of textiles. And it is expected that the collection rates today, they have approximately 2.9 million tons, which are collected every year. I said it before, approximately 30%. It's expected that it will go up to 5.5 million tons a year, which means there's much more quantity. And much more quantity means they need better sorting, better sorting quality, and on the other hand, also more quantity to process this enormous amount of textiles which are collected. Then we see that the textile waste regulation also says that more products should end up in local reuse. And for that, they will need a better sorting quality to really provide a maximum of products to local stores. Also to not only secondhand stores, but also such stores which sell new clothing today. Then the third driver which we see is that also brands are interested to enrich their portfolio with products which are reused. So nearly every big brand has some projects going on where they're testing pre-owned goods next to new goods. And but today the problem which they have is that sorters are not really able, or it's very labor intense to detect products which actually fit to the target group of a brand, and that's an option for us to provide this in the future. And thirdly, a fourth pillar which we see is that there are a lot of textile to textile innovations coming to the market, which need a more precise sorted feedstock so that they can really use their processes and create fibers which have the same quality or similar quality to a new product. Now, how do we want to make this better? So we are working on a fully automated process, which is more objective and more accurate than manual processes are today. By doing this, we think that we can reduce the costs by 30% for textile sorters which are using this technology. Secondly, we want to add more criteria than just the product type and the shape which it is, so that we can really allocate it to specific target groups and brands, etc. And it will be also more flexible because we can really change the requirements for a feedstock just by changing the software, and we don't have to train staff for weeks until they can learn it. And so we think that we can really sort every garment to its best value, and that we can address brands and retailers, online re-commerce, but also repair and upcycling processes and textile to textile recycling. And how does this look like? We have a process where the garment is put on a conveyor belt, and then it's analyzed by different sensing technologies. So on the one hand, we're using cameras with AI-based computer vision to detect a couple of attributes, but we're also using digital product passports, which will be mandatory from 2027 on, to get more information about the product. we take a decision to which feedstock or which buyer this could go, and then can allocate the product to this buyer. For that, we are detecting, for example, which style the product has and which brand is it coming from, what could be the second-hand value or the size of it. But we're also looking at what is the quality of the product. Does it have holes? Is it worn out, etc., so that we can say it's rewearable or not. Additionally, and that's what we are coming from with circular fashion, we also have manual sorting stations for legacy players which already have sorting stations in sorting facilities in place, but we can still help them with augmented processes where on the one hand we show direct data about the product, but we also help them to calculate to which stream it could go. In this case, the person would still take the decision how good the quality of the product is. Here an example how this looks like, as this is already used from a couple of sorters. So the person takes the garment and puts it on the table. The product data is accessed automatically, and then our software calculates to which buyer this product could go. Looking at the market size, I told you before that currently we are collecting 2.9 million tons in the EU. However, the EU just has 1.4 million tons of sorting capacity, so the rest is exported directly. And now we are increasing to 5.5 million tons, and it's not so easy to export products which you don't know in which shape they are. So for that reason, there is a lot of capacity needed, which needs to be built up in the next years. On the other side, we also see that second-hand markets are growing and they're asking more products. And this creates really a demand for our technology. We see if with the capacity we expect for our sorting machines, we expect 1,200 machines which are needed, with different types of machines for small or big sorters. Where are we standing today? As I said, on the one side, it's a spin-off of circular fashion. On the other side, it's also a spin-off of the Technical University and Free University of Berlin, as we have worked together in funded projects to develop the basis of this. We will we will finish this year a first prototype so that we can start piloting next year with a couple of brands and projects. And finally, we, for example, also are part of a SURPASS-2 digital product passport piloting program. But we are already today and in the future in relation with many big sorters and working with them and testing our prototypes, which we have so far. Overall, if we look at replacing new goods with reused goods, there is an enormous lever of saving greenhouse gas emissions. So for example, just for Germany, if we replace 10% of new clothing with pre-owned goods, this would already save 9.5 million tons CO2 per year. And on the other side, we also see that textile waste today, which is going into downcycling or incineration, that actually 74% of it could be textile to textile recycled. And having said that, I'm looking forward to your questions. And yeah, that's reverse fashion.
Mario, thank you so much. So much for being here with us. A quick question regarding the digital product passport, because you mentioned it and we heard it before as well. What impact will it have, first and foremost, on the industry, maybe real quick, and then also on your business model?
Mm-hmm. So the digital product passport, first of all, is a tool which the EU Commission will make mandatory. And the goal is, on the one hand, that consumers can take more sustainable decisions on their products, but it's also, and that's very important, to enable circular economy and circular business models. So they really want that textile sorters can get more information, repair companies can get more information about it. I'm personally involved in this as I was part of the project where we developed a prototype of the digital product passport, and I will be also part with Reverse Fashion to pilot now the system in the next 3 years. And we constantly giving feedback to the EU Commission how this must look like so that we can really use it. For us, it's super helpful because we can get material information about the material composition. We can get information about the value of the product when it was new, etc. We can track information, and it also helps us to track actually back to the brand. So when a product is coming back, we know in which condition it came back, when it came back, etc. And this can be very helpful for a brand to steer their products, to improve the product quality, and learn what actually happens with their products. For us, it's just helpful because some information is not visible. So in the end, for us, it's not really a direct impact for our business model, but it's an impact that we can improve the sorting quality for the sorter, and combine the information from a digital product passport with computer vision data, but also spectroscopy data. And in the end, we really take the best decisions based on a quite big amount of information about the product.
Information is king. It makes you guys more efficient, and then hopefully the entire industry as well. Mario, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And it was great seeing you again. And with that, I am unfortunately already introducing our last startup here. And as they always say, last but not least, here welcoming on stage the lovely Viktoria Kanar. So right after I've introduced the startup, I think we're going to see a video from you guys as well. Viktoria, you nod in anticipation, which makes me excited as well. But before I say that, as business owners and innovators, I think there is one thing we all understand, and it's that navigating the upcoming regulatory landscape for many of us is still a huge black box. It just is. And Refresh, and I think that's a beautiful part of it, is essentially has developed a one-loop technology. And I think Viktoria, she's going to go into that a little bit more in a second, that essentially helps you navigate the whole transition while also further reducing your carbon footprint. So without further ado, let it roll.
Thank you so much for showing this video. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon, early evening. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure also, especially because the speakers before me are engaged in such amazing, interesting projects. All I think about is let's all do a boot camp and see how we can solve this big problem together very, very quickly, maybe also with some of the people in the audience. But of course, until then, we need to make sure that we actually have all the right solutions in place. So what we're looking at is the textile waste, similar to some of the speakers before me, but in a very different approach. Our approach is called the open loop, and I'll explain shortly why we call it like that. Well, first of all, we're looking into the business value of textile waste. Ellen MacArthur Foundation, I assume, is a name to most people here, one of the most important research institutes in the industry that really came out of this huge figure of $500 billion US, which are being lost every year because the textiles ultimately go into a landfill or being incinerated. And we are looking to tap at the 80% of the clothing that cannot be reused and cannot be reworn, and in essence today ends up being waste or landfill. We heard already a lot about the regulation, but even for us, of course, it's also a huge opportunity, especially because we know that more and more stakeholders in the European Union and certainly also other countries will be looking into finding ways of actually create this circular approach, even though, yes, it will probably take a bit longer than the 1st of January of 25. But in the end of the day, we do see how regulations in other industry have created an impact. And in our case, especially interesting, the automotive industry, the numbers you're seeing here are real, maybe even though they didn't have to always pay all the amounts, but the threat was big enough for especially the car industry, the automotive, to start rethinking their ways and looking for the solutions to their common practices. So what it meant for us as Refresh Global, and when we started out, most of us come from the fashion industry. My co-founder and I and our team exists of engineers in textile field and chemistry and fashion. And we all had quite a good understanding of the fact that the fashion industry will take probably a bit longer to actually change their ways, to try finding another approach to shorten their supply chains and so on. But the world can't wait. We can't wait. Regulation is not willing to wait, and states. So we said, okay, we are not here to sort of point finger at anybody. What we want to do is we want to come with help to the fashion industry. We want to come and help them take their waste and create new raw materials that will then be useful for other industries, for manufacturing industries, which already have a need for these type of raw materials. And moreover, what's very important, they already have to comply with regulation and have to find an immediate solution. So this is very much where we are in this intersection with our open loop approach. I mentioned briefly the team and really making sure that we have the right people on board that understand R&D, but also understand manufacturing, understand the business of fashion. I feel this was also part of our secret sauce, how we combine everyone together. And so this is what we have built. We call it the open loop because basically what happens is that, again, as research shows, in the end of the day, when no matter how we see, no matter how we try, we end up with even actually over 80% of clothing or other textiles that are not being used today. And so our solution, what it knows to do is divert it from landfill, and then also being a biotech solution, we're able to actually separate between natural and synthetic fibers, and then manufacturing 3 new raw materials from them that can then go into over 14 new industries. And the way it works is that it's a biotech process, like I said, and the 3 products are everything that comes from the natural fibers is nanocellulose, we actually heard it mentioned before, and then also ethanol. We're actually the world's first producers of ethanol from textile waste. We produce already a number of fragrances from it. And then everything that is synthetic gets separated in the process and gets sanitized so that we have actually new fibers from the polyester or other similar textiles that we can reuse. Now, why did we decide to go for this open loop? Like everybody else, we hope that in the end of the day, the fashion industry will actually be able to close the loop and will be able to produce very much from the beginning yarns and textiles that will be recyclable in a fully closed loop. But until then, until the technologies out there will be able to supply that demand, we need to do something with the millions of discarded textiles out there. We're actually talking about over 90 million ton, right, of textile waste that's being produced yearly. And so this is why we decided to go for the open loop, which of course also offers us a lot more opportunities. And because of the quality of the materials we produce, it's not called downcycling anymore. We're actually producing very high quality materials for different industries from that. So let me show you a few examples. Again, you've seen the industries here, but just very quickly what we have done already. So we've been able to produce various types of fabrics from the non-woven materials. We've been able to produce molds for that. We've been able to produce, actually, well, one of the biggest collaboration is with the Volkswagen group, with whom we're now already in progress collaboration for large scale amounts, because we've been able to successfully replace their current materials, actually, again, the higher quality materials, not just the fillers, and with our materials, and which successfully passed the test. And for them, what was very important, we were able to prove how our materials could reduce their CO2 emissions and also even the costs. And we believe that it's going to become even better and more beneficial for them as we go. But we've also worked with the furniture industry. I'm sure you're all familiar with these phone booths that are exist today in a lot of co-working spaces. So actually the inside, I don't know if you've ever thought of it, is also made from textiles, but those textiles, fibers are being delivered from far away, and we actually create an alternative by creating this whole piece of the acoustic wall from local waste. And we're also now in scale production for these booths, so look out, maybe you'll see them in one of your offices. This is it. There are a lot more collaborations that we've been doing, and if you remember the industries we're looking at right now, or are looking at us, especially in the automotive industry, there are really a lot of options out there. So we are very much looking forward to become this really fast alternative for raw materials from local waste.
Viktoria, thank you so much, including your GIF-enabled presentation, winning the prize for the tech side of it all tonight. Your product is incredibly varied, which is really needed, I think. Now, my question is, what areas could you expand into in terms of diversifying your product that would be most impactful and most needed at this point?
Right. So actually what I didn't add, and thank you for asking about that, because I really wanted to understand where we're today. Actually, the next step for us is, if you remember when I showed the whole system, we call it the Smart Up system, that is actually what's going to become the product, because we are very driven by the idea that because waste from textiles is everywhere, there's no need to ship it from A to B, and there's no need to look at it from a global perspective. We want to be able to help clients and industries to purchase or basically use our concept and this whole system that we have built in their facilities, take the local waste, run it for the system, have those raw materials coming out, use it either for their own needs or actually create new revenue channels for their businesses.
I see. Viktoria, thank you again so much for being here with us. And like with everybody else before, if you want to reach out to Viktoria, I'm sure that the others and the organizers can absolutely help. And with that, I think, Rachel, you having already turned on your camera, it means that my 15 minutes of fame are over tonight, which is good. Again, a huge thank you from my side. If anybody wants to, in any way or form, reach out to me or reach out to us, work with us, make sure that we make the world a better and more resilient place, then please let me know. And otherwise, looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much, Laurent, and a big round of applause for the excellent moderation once again.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. And yeah, thank you for all the startups for their inspiring solutions, and Juliane for the amazing keynote. We've learned so much tonight. I think my personal takeaway is change of mindset is important here. And along with AI can do so many things, as we saw. And I want to thank the audience for taking the time to join us tonight. If you want to reach out, like Laurent said, feel free to get in contact with us. We'll connect you to the startups, any of the speakers, and be sure to stay tuned for more events. Upcoming on April 15th, we have our next trend tour on waste. We'll drop the registration link in the chat. I think we already did that. Perfect. And we also have an exciting exchange on greenwashing on April 23rd. Stephanie Kuhnhan from Service Plan will be joining us to go over the do's and don'ts in light of the Green Claims Directive. So lots of exciting events coming up, and we hope to see you again soon. So wishing everybody a good night, and yeah, until the next event. Goodbye.